Hello everyone, welcome back to Home Media Reviews. I've got a wild tale for you this time, folks. A tale of betrayal, a tale of whimsy, perhaps even a tale of murder. This tale involves 12 men, 1 room, and 1 young man's life at stake. If you're man enough, join me on this extraordinary review of 12 Angry Men. Did I sound like I was from the 1950s? I kind of tried to do that like, hey, listen here, see? kind of voice, but nobody in this movie really talks like that. They talk more like this. It's much more subdued. I'm just saying it's possible. Don't worry, I'm not going to use that voice throughout the entire video. I just thought it'd be fun here at the start. But as I previously said, this review is on 12 Angry Men. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into the history section. So 12 Angry Men first hit theaters on April 10th, 1957. I believe this is the oldest film that I have ever covered here on Home Media Reviews, so needless to say, I did not see this one in theaters. You all are surely wondering, how did I see 12 Angry Men for the first time? Well, it's a bit unconventional. 12 Angry Men is actually based on a stage play, and back in my freshman year of high school English class, we read and performed this play. Not like performed it in front of an audience. My teacher was a bit eccentric, so she was like, hey, it's a stage play. You all are going to act like it's a play. So every day when we come to her class, she would cast various people in various roles, and we would read a segment of this play. Now, I wasn't really captivated by it. I was a freshman in high school, so nothing was cool to me back then. I basically hated everything that school had to offer. So the play I was never really interested in, but then my teacher said, hey, after we finish this, we're going to watch the movie. At this point, I was like becoming sort of a film nerd. I hadn't really fully embraced it yet, but I would say I was a film virgin at the time, to put it lightly. And you guys know when you watch movies in school, you automatically assume this movie's going to stink, because it's a movie for school, you know? Part of the reason why I don't like Avatar as much as everybody else does is because we watched that movie in school. I watched it, I think, my sophomore year for history class. My teacher loosely tied that into imperialism, and we watched Avatar. I don't know how those two things go together, but yeah, that's how I saw Avatar for the first time. But there was something about 12 Angry Men when my teacher put this movie on that captivated me. I couldn't explain it at the time, but there was something about it that just made me think, wow, this is a cut above the rest of any other movie I'd seen at that point. I'm pretty sure at this point, in my freshman year, this was probably the oldest movie I had ever seen. And like I said, it captivated me, and it never really left my mind. A few years after that, I started getting more into movies, Blu-rays, and specifically boutique-style Blu-rays. You know, stuff like Arrow, Criterion, that kind of thing. 12 Angry Men was the first Criterion I ever purchased. I bought this movie off of eBay. I didn't buy it from Barnes & Noble or anything like that. No, I got it used secondhand. And after watching it again after that, I instantly fell in love with it all over again. I was now more experienced with films. I could actually articulate my opinions better, and I just absolutely fell in love with this movie when I watched that Criterion Blu-ray for the first time. Moving along, though, in this movie's history, the original VHS release hit in 1990. Almost, 30 years after it hit theaters, it finally hit home media? That's crazy to me. What a wait time for that. I'm sure it was re-released in theaters between 1957 and 1990 at some point in time. That's weird to me, though, how long it took for that to finally hit home video. The VHS then got re-released in 1996. It was part of the Vintage Classics line. This movie would definitely be classified as vintage back in 1996. It's definitely vintage by today's standards. The DVD then hit on March 6th, 2001. We've got a mouthful here for this next release. United Artists Cinema Greats Collection Volume 3 DVD set. This hit on October 23rd, 2007, and this included 12 Angry Men, A Bridge Too Far, Judgment at Nuremberg, and Paths of Glory. The only movie I've heard of from that set is Paths of Glory, and it was probably mentioned in like a retro blasting video, because Michael over on that channel loves old war movies. Paths of Glory sounds like an old war movie, so that's probably where I heard it from. Never heard of Judgment at Nuremberg or Bridge Too Far. Another DVD release hit on December 4th, 2007. Just a single disc release. It was part of the Decades collection. We've got another United Artists set here to talk about. The United Artists Deluxe gift set hit on December 11th, 2007. 12 Angry Men got 3 different releases in 2007. Wow. And this one included a lot of movies. Just bear with me here. This included 12 Angry Men, Marty, Some Like It Hot, Alamo, The Apartment, The Magnificent Seven, Judgment at Nuremberg, West Side Story, Birdman of Alcatraz, Dr. No, The Manchurian Candidate, The Great Escape, The Pink Panther, Greatest Story Ever Told, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, The Thomas Crown Affair, The Battle of Britain, Midnight Cowboy, Fiddler on the Roof, Rocky, Annie Hall, A Bridge Too Far, The Spy Who Loved Me, Raging Bull, Rain Man, GoldenEye, The Birdcage, Bowling for Columbine, and Hotel Rwanda. I've heard of probably half of those movies, stuff like Rocky, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, you know, classics like that, but what the hell is The Apartment, or Marty? Sounds like a Martin Short biopic. We have another United Artists thing to talk about here, and this is a bigger set from the deluxe gift set. This is the United Artists 90th Anniversary Prestige Collection, which also hit on December 11, 2007. My notes say this is the previous box set on steroids. This included 90 movies. I refuse to read them all here, though. That would take up the majority of this episode. Next year, on March 4th, 2008, the Collector's Edition DVD hit store shelves. Finally, on November 22nd, 2011, 12 Angry Men made its debut onto Blu-ray with the Criterion Collection Blu-ray, and also the DVD. That's one thing I like about Criterion, though. They always try to keep the previous format supported no matter how great the new format is. Like with their 4Ks, they're still putting out Blu-rays. They're even still putting out DVDs of stuff. Criterion tries to include everyone in their releases, and they did it here with 12 Angry Men. We've got another multi-pack to talk about here. It's only a 3-pack, though, and it's on DVD, unfortunately. It's the MGM 90th Anniversary DVD 3-pack. This included 12 Angry Men, Marty, and In the Heat of the Night. I feel like I've heard of In the Heat of the Night. I don't remember where, though. We then jump forward almost a decade to April 18th, 2023, when 12 Angry Men hit 4K for the first time. This is not a Criterion release, though. Kino Lorber, another boutique Blu-ray site, one that I have invested heavily in, I've purchased a lot of titles from them, they nabbed the rights for the 4K transfer of 12 Angry Men. Cool thing about this one, though, is you get a whole other movie included with it. You actually get the remake from 1997, directed by William Friedkin. If you don't know his name, he directed The Exorcist. And that, folks, brings us to the end of 12 Angry Men's history on physical media. Spoiler alert, I don't have the 4K of this. I've heard good things about it, though, and the fact that you get an extra movie with it does kind of sway me a little bit to want to pick that up at some point, but I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. I'm perfectly fine with my Criterion Blu-ray. I enjoy it. It looks great. With that being said, that's the end of the history section. Let's move right along to the close-up. Alrighty, everyone. Here's your close-up look at 12 Angry Men. I've got the Criterion Blu-ray here for my one and only copy of this movie. I've never found a VHS copy of it out in the wild. Honestly, I'm not sure I ever will. This movie is, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's the oldest movie I've covered on home media reviews, and VHS copies of it are just not common out there in flea markets. Up here at the top, we've got the Criterion logo. We have all of our jurors, cast members in juror order. I should mention that as well. We've got Henry Fonda, 12 Angry Men, directed by Sidney Lumet. And then every Criterion has this little badge down here at the bottom, noting that it's from the Criterion Collection, and it's from the year 1957. This poster is really cool. I do love also how Henry Fonda is the only one that has a yellow background, because he's kind of the main character here. I mean, they're all sort of main characters, but some get more screen time than others. Henry Fonda, of course, gets the most screen time out of all of them, followed closely by Lee J. Cobb up here. The spine, 12 Angry Men, some more Criterion stuff, and then the spine number, 591. The back is your standard Criterion back. You've got your barcode there, Blu-ray edition. You've got your year the movie was released, runtime, black and white, audio, and then your aspect ratio. You have a blurb about the movie, and then all of your special features are listed down here at the bottom. You've got cast and crew information there, and then a little blurb about what the Criterion Collection is striving to do. Open this up as I knock the tripod there. We'll take a look at this booklet here in just a moment. But behind it, you have your chapter listings there, and then there's your disc. So this booklet is really awesome. You've got Henry Fonda there on the front, and it's basically full of behind the scenes information and essays about the movie. This one here by Thane Rosenbaum, Lumet's Faces. I've never actually read any of these. I probably should, because this movie is fantastic. I love it. And here's about the transfer and special thanks and all that. So there's only one essay included here, but you do get some acknowledgments of people, I assume, who worked on the transfer and the production credits and all that stuff. So there's only one essay in this booklet. In other Criterion releases, sometimes they have 2 or 3 essays from multiple people, but you only get that one by Thane Rosenbaum there, but still cool. Get some facts about the transfer and everything. So that wraps up your close-up. Let's move right along to the menu tour. Alrighty, everyone, here's your menu tour for 12 Angry Men. Your menu is a standard Criterion menu. It's got this red filter over top of it, making everything look way more intense. You've got the Criterion logo up there in the corner, and then your options over here. You can play the movie. I'm not quite sure what timeline is, because chapter selection is below that, so I don't think that's scene selection. But your bonus content is called supplements, so that's very official sounding. Let's take a look at timeline here. Okay, so it's literally just a timeline of the movie. I guess this is where you can add bookmarks, because if you look down here, you've got some options for that. Kind of odd. Let's take a look at chapters. Yeah, okay, so timeline and chapters are literally the exact same thing. It's just timeline gives you an actual timeline of what happens in the movie. Okay, go off Criterion, I guess. But in terms of chapters, we've got 19. This movie's only 90 minutes, so 19 scenes makes total sense. And I don't think there's traditional closing credits. It's been a little bit since I've watched it for this review, so I don't think the closing credits are too long. Most of the credits come at the beginning. So, yeah, 19 scenes. Take a look at the supplements here. We've got the television version. You've got the television version from 1955, which came out 2 years before this movie did, directed by Frank Schaffner. I believe I mentioned that in the close-up section. 12 Angry Men from TV to the big screen, Sidney Lumet, on Reginald Rose, on Boris Kaufman, and then the theatrical trailer for the movie. So not a ton of special features here. I would have expected more from Criterion, but hey, it's nice that we actually got some okay stuff. And then you also get that physical booklet full of essays about the movie. Reasons I really love Criterion and what they do with their physical media releases. They actually put effort into them. But that wraps up your menu tour. Let's go ahead and head on back and answer the 5 main questions as always. Alright, so we're back from close-up. Now it's time to answer the 5 main questions as always. Number 1, where can you pick this product up? You can pick this up in a couple of places. Not just Amazon and online retailers. In fact, I think it's still in stock on Kino Lorber's website. But the Criterion Blu-ray has never gone out of print. Criterion stuff very rarely ever goes out of print unless it's like a super special box set. So the Criterion Blu-ray, still in print right now. If you go to your local Barnes & Noble, you may be able to find it. Unless for some reason your Barnes & Noble has completely abandoned physical media. One of the Barnes & Nobles in my town still has a pretty robust physical media section. The other one is pretty much anemic. Number 2, is this product still being printed nowadays? I can actually say yes to this question, because not only is the Kino Lorber title still in print right now, but so is the Criterion Blu-ray, so you can grab either or. Number 3, should you pick this product up? From the very beginning of this movie, I'm hooked, because all you hear is the opening statements made by the judge this case. The basic plot outline of 12 Angry Men is, there's a kid who's on trial for killing his father. And these 12 men have just heard the arguments made by both the prosecution and the defense. And now they have to go back into this little room and figure out whether or not this kid's guilty. And you get all that from the opening statements made by the judge. He lays out everything perfectly. If these men come back with a guilty verdict, then this kid's going to the electric chair. And the fact that we only get one shot of this kid throughout the entire movie, we don't know him, we don't even know his name, but we get one shot of him as the men are shuffling out of the courtroom. He doesn't cry, and he doesn't beg, he just sits and stares as these 12 men go off to decide his fate. It's masterfully crafted filmmaking. As the opening titles play, our 12 angry men wander into the jury deliberation room, and if you watch closely, there is not a single cut between each of these jurors' introductions. It's a masterpiece of filmmaking to pull this off in one shot. We learn an important fact about each of these jurors as the camera pans. One has tickets to a baseball game, one's got a cold, one doesn't find the case that compelling. It feels like a stage play, the way that we're introduced to each of these characters, which makes sense because the movie was based on the play. After the first vote, you can feel the energy shift in that room. Henry Fonda doesn't look at anyone when he raises his hand, and you can see the conflict on his face as the men continue to poke and prod. Everyone else just wants out, but Fonda's the only one who has a little bit of a conscience. I'm willing to sit here for an hour. Oh, great. I heard a pretty great story. That's not why we're sitting here. I love how Fonda delivers that line. He immediately takes control of the entire room with that one line. The dialogue in this movie feels like masterfully crafted punches, like a really good boxing match that's filmed in a movie is what this dialogue feels like. It starts as a discussion about the case and then turns into a knockout, drag-out match between them as the discussion gets more heated. The dialogue has a great pace to it. It's almost like music, how it moves and flows throughout these scenes. One of my favorite scenes in this movie is the knife scene, when they have to bring in the switchblade knife that the boy allegedly knifed his father with. Spoiler alert, Henry Fonda has a knife exactly like it, and when he slams it down on that table, instant chills. It is a perfect gotcha bitch moment. It's wonderful. I can't even talk about it and do it justice here. You just gotta watch that scene. It's masterfully done. It's not easy to stand against the ridicule of others. Truer words have never been spoken. Just try having a different political opinion in the Thomas fandom. Love that scene in the bathroom where a speck of doubt is introduced into to Fonda's mind. Hey, so what if the kid did knife his father and you talk us out of it? What happens then? What if he is wrong and they let that kid go back on the street? What if every single person in that room is completely wrong and it's all because of Fonda? You can see the weight on his face as he thinks that over. For a movie with such heavy subject matter, the joke about the tic-tac-toe board made me bust a gut. Tension reliever, but only for a moment, because right after it's thrown away, we start hearing arguments about the L train. After the demonstration with the old man getting out of bed, Lee J. Cobb gets to show his acting chops next to Henry Fonda's. Cobb is fantastic as this hothead who hates kids from slums. Perhaps you'd like to be the one who pulled the switch. For this kid, you bet I would. I'm convinced John Hamm modeled his look in Mad Men off Juror 12. They look exactly the same. Juror 4 gives a great performance as well. His back and forth with Fonda over the names of the movies that the boy saw was great. The juror claimed he never sweats, but as Fonda pokes and pokes, you can see that sweat start falling from his head. There's no close-up. There's no attention drawn to it. You're left to figure it out for yourself, and it's wonderful. Juror 10's monologue, and hear me out when I say this, was brilliantly delivered, even though what he's talking about is incredibly racist. The way he uses they and them to describe just one boy and how each man moves away while he's yelling and turns their backs to him, and his absolutely abhorrent rhetoric. Number 10 showed his true colors, and not one of those men supported it, and it's a wonderfully crafted scene. Like I said, what he was saying is terrible, but the way he delivers it, really good. Juror 9 blows the whole testimony from the woman wide open, and the reaction on 4's face after says it all. He's been so convinced throughout the entire day, but after one little piece of evidence he overlooked comes to light, instantly his vote gets changed. Cobb finds himself in the same place Fonda was at the very start of this movie, and he doesn't take it very well. The monologue he gives after he's backed into a corner was chilling and perfectly delivered. And the movies, there's a phony deal if I ever heard one. I'd bet you $5,000 I'd remember the movies I saw. When he breaks down, my heart shatters for him and his past trauma. It's a fantastic performance. He never says anything specifically about what happened, but you see the photo of, I think it's his son, just absolutely powerful stuff and a great way to end off this movie. 12 Angry Men might not be an action classic or science fiction effects spectacular, but it is a masterpiece of cinema. 90-minute movie, and I am tense throughout the entire thing. Who will switch their vote? That is this boy really guilty? I want to see how it ends. And what happens to these jurors? And you don't even know the names of these characters, yet you feel so invested in this story. I said last week how I think that this is one of the greatest movies of all time. Yeah, I stand by that. Everything about this movie is pure perfection. The cinematography, the pacing, the dialogue, the performances, everything about it is wonderful. And aside from the fact that nobody uses a cell phone here, the movie doesn't feel dated at all. Nobody talks like this, you know? Nobody talks like they're in a 40s gangster movie. They all talk relatively normal. Yeah, it's in black and white and everything, but the subject matter isn't dated. The movie feels incredibly timeless. The story feels timeless. And like I said, the performances, oh my lord, the performances, they're so good. I can't talk about this movie because I can't do it justice because it's just that good. Was there ever any doubt? I absolutely recommend that you all watch 12 Angry Men. This movie is one of my all-time favorites now. And it may be one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life. I almost said the greatest movie. I don't think that that's necessarily true, but it is one of the greatest movies that we as a human race have ever made. And you absolutely should see it. Number 4, where should you pick this product up? Shoot, find it on Amazon, buy it there. Find it at Barnes & Noble, buy it there. You won't see the Criterion Blu-ray of 12 Angry Men on sale at Walmart, unfortunately. And number 5, what price should you pay? Let's start off with the 4K, because the MSRP on that's $40. Kino Lorber's a bit expensive when it comes to their stuff when it's brand new from their site. If you wait for a sale, though, for Kino Lorber, you can get it for about $18 to $19, which I'd say is a really good price for that. You won't get it with a slipcover, though. For the Criterion Blu-ray, the MSRP of that's about $40, so wait for the Criterion half-off sale and get it for $20. DVDs and VHS, I really don't have any value predictions for those. Honestly, the best way to experience this is the Criterion Blu-ray. It looks fantastic. The bonus features are a little lacking. It is cool, though, that you get a 1955 filmed play version of 12 Angry Men on the Criterion Blu-ray. And it is really cool how on the Kino Lorber 4K you get the remake of this movie. That's pretty cool, too. I'd say you really can't go wrong with either the 4K or the Criterion Blu-ray. Pick your poison. Well, folks, that wraps up your home media review for 12 Angry Men. I am very happy that I got to share my opinions on this movie with you guys, because I feel this movie is criminally underrated. There's a lot of people out there say, Citizen Kane, greatest movie ever made. Seven Samurai, greatest movie ever made. What about 12 Angry Men? We gotta talk about this movie more because it's damn near perfect. I threw you guys a curveball last week when we went from Blade to a self-serious drama, nearly perfect film about a boy who may or may not have killed his father and the jurors that have to talk about it for 90 minutes. Let's shift gears again. Let's do something that's a little bit more horror-centric. Now, I'm not a horror person. I don't like horror movies. Being scared is not one of my favorite things. I'm just not one of those people. However, this movie that I'm going to talk about next week is probably the closest thing to a horror movie I've ever seen. I hate heights. I have a terrifying fear of heights. I guess technically it would be the fear of falling, but man, high places, I'm not a fan of it. Which is why, when I first heard about the movie Fall, I thought, this may be one of the scariest movies I've ever seen, because I hate giant things. I don't like climbing giant things. Was it the scariest movie I'd ever seen? You'll have to come back next week to hear me talk about it, because next week we're talking about Fall. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I will see you all then. Good night, everybody.